Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Asta. As some of you have noticed, we are also now available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but this is the YouTube to see our smiling faces. This is my weekly show, a way of keeping sane under lockdown. I'm also capturing the amazing people that inspire me in my life. And today I'm lucky to have artist Beccs, a friend of mine for years, met on an odd job. She just also happens to be an incredible goddess of music. You may check out some of her music on all music platforms, and Such a Love is released now. And we'll talk about her career and everything. And welcome to the show, Beccs. How are you doing?
Thank you. It's so good to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. We the last time we saw each other face to face, it was almost like we were doing your version of this show because you were recording our conversation through voice lesson, and that
Yeah.
was 2 years ago. And what a world we've entered into since.
I know. I can't believe it's been 2 years. I'm marking my email. I've been messing up dates on my invoices, on my emails, on my Zoom meetings. I have no sense of time right now. But
But it's crazy to see where you've gone, and you actually produced "Such a Love," your latest single, during quarantine. Like, what was
in
that?
this room. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Well, at the very beginning of quarantine, I got really sick with strep, which is not a fun time to be, because you're like, is this COVID? Is this not? Am I going to infect everyone? And then, none of the symptoms were meeting that. But you still had to go to the urgent care. And then you're like, maybe I'll get it here if it's not it now. So I was basically not talking for like 2 to 3 weeks in the beginning of quarantine, and that was pretty wild as a singer to just not have your instrument. And but it was also really interesting because I was forced into submission, and I couldn't even like feel guilty for not doing anything because I was in so much pain. um, and so it gave me a lot of time to just reflect. And before, when I was in New York, I was working on an EP, and I needed people to do that. And so I kind of pivoted, and I realized that this song, Such a Love, which is really, it's about kind of our self-aggrandizing culture, and like, what would it be like um, if we were more self-sacrificing, and if there was like someone out there um, that gave themselves for their lover's cause, to fight for what's left of the land and the sea. And with COVID, this whole mentality of you need to stay at home, or you need to wear a mask for your own safety, but also the safety of others, in this kind of like exponential ripple effect. It really made me think about this dynamic of kind of a more, yeah, altruistic lens, but like from the day to day, just how do my actions affect other people. So I just, it became very clear that I wanted to put all my efforts into Such a Love. And yeah, I built it up in this room. I did a lot of Logic tutorials, built up the demo, arranged strings, and then my partner is um, a string player, and so we recorded it all here. And I went outside by the water and in the woods, and I collected all these sounds of shells and branches breaking, and I made up part of the beat with that. And so you had to think out of the box of like, what do I have, and what can I work with.
Yeah, and it really like, ooh, it stirs so much when you listen to it. It almost reminds me in a very good, and I hope you take it as a compliment. It reminds
Thank
me
you.
like a Bond theme that we don't deserve. Like it's like so, it's that cinematic quality that like really takes you to something of great hero's journey, and like the ultimate, like you said, sacrifice, and like what you would do for someone, and how like the words like heroes and love, like they're so misused in the modern world, like, and love like really can be this ultimate like I would do anything for you, you know, and I feel like this song really captures that, and it captures this moment. And I mean, like, I cried the first time I listened to it, and then I like did the thing where I listened to it again and again right after to just kind of like like I'm tearing up just thinking about the song. But guys, you have to listen if you have not listened to Becks' music, like you really like you take the you really bring a candor to it, and you make it like you never know where your voice is going to go. Like you bring it to the high and the low and the uncomfortable and the like. You feel like you're in the room. I mean, it's not something we hear every day with this polish. You know, like you and we've talked about this, like you and I, like when I was working with my voice, like this idea of it's so rare to hear a woman's voice now because we want these like really high or like really polished or strong. But how do you, because you always work with that, with the emotional aspect of the singing. Do you want to talk about how that forms your music?
Yeah. I love that, first of all. Thank you. That was so beautiful. And I love that you were able to hear all of those elements. Yeah, I mean, I've been on quite a journey with my voice. Like before college, I definitely only sang and spoke up here, and it was in a higher register, and it did feel very detached from the rest of my body. And fortunately, in my acting training, I studied under this woman, Katie Bowl, and it really, I think it was like a lot of Fitzmaurice work, but a lot of breath body work, and it really made me drop down in my voice and discover I'm holding my belly right now. But it got me in touch with that. And at the time I was also like in recovery for years of eating disorder. So that was really interesting, of just like connecting with my body in a completely new way and just seeing how that transformed my voice and then my artistry. But yeah, so that made me discover my lower range. And then I went from like singing to realizing I can just like communicate in a song. And that came with my discovery of folk music and getting familiar with some of my favorite artists in that canon. And I remember I sang with my friend Paul Winefield, and I was like, Paul, like, I'm not singing. I can't do this song. And he's like, yeah, you are. Like, this is also singing. And I realized that a lot of the time I hid behind my voice because I have so much technical training and so much range. I realized I was using it as kind of a protection from actually being seen when I sing. And then I just went off on my own and like, I make weird sounds. I do like weird sample sounds for people and just had so much fun exploring the different textures in the walls of my mouth and then trying to find ways to do that healthfully. But yeah, in this song there was definitely like in the bridge, my mixer was like, is this supposed to be off pitch? Like, I think it is. And I'm like, yeah, like definitely, when I'm like doubling myself. And I wanted it to kind of feel like it's encroaching. And then there's all these kind of ethereal backup vocals while I'm kind of getting gritty up here. So I wanted that to feel like a confrontation. And while I can have like a beautiful melodic voice, I have things to say. So you're not always, there's going to be some disturbance to how I use my voice.
And you bring your acting background into the theatricality of like your music videos. One of the ones that like very early on, having to do with like your experiences with eating disorder and just catharsis, was the therapy song, and how like that was so powerful. And I know that sometimes like my husband will walk in on me and I'll be like singing parts of that song because I just love like the lines like I'm in an abusive relationship, her name is me, like all these lines that are just like, it's so true, like, oh, I need to take care of myself, but I'm the one that's ruining myself. And I love that music video. Like, where did that concept come from? I mean, the lyrics definitely lend themselves.
Yeah, the song was written in a treatment center in a hospital. They had a piano, which was very lucky. But I was really lucky to work with this director, Julia Barrett Mitchell, who's one of my favorite music video directors. And it was really cool because I knew I wanted to like play with ink, and I knew I wanted there to be two versions of me, the healer Beccs and the destructive Beccs, and I wanted those to be embodied with two dancers. But there was like a lot missing in the narrative, and Julia, I don't know, I think we had like a coffee and she just like got it. And it was just amazing seeing her mind just connect all these dots. And then she would send me treatments and I'm like, but yeah, and my friend Sophia Harvey produced that, and it was my first music video, and I just really lucked out with an amazing team. But the vision and the message was clear, and the ink. So for those who don't know, I'm kind of like obsessively writing with this ink, and that's kind of like this form of therapy in a way, because in reality, songwriting was kind of what got me out of my eating disorder. And then the ink spills, and then you kind of it cuts to me in this like beautiful white dress, and I start singing, and I gradually start purging that same black ink. And it's kind of disturbing, and to be confronted with something that you think is beautiful turn out to be kind of a danger to your own comfort. And I love that, because for me, what got me out of recovery was, if I am the source of my own self-destruction, I can also be the source of my own recovery and my own therapy. And that's what songwriting became. It was like my own form of purging. It was my own form of therapy. And I feel like the video just said that.
Yeah, art can be really powerful in that way. I know every time that I have looked to art as a way to just acknowledge feelings, I think that that's the biggest part of like recovering or moving forward with any issue, is like just acknowledging it, because so much the energy that we normally take up is, repressing, pushing, denying, like deflecting, doing our best to like act the artifice that we're okay, but it really is okay not okay, and to just let it out as it comes out instead of having it blow up. And he tackles that, like and you also, unlike some artists are coming out more and more and more as being, not just their art, like they're making sure to reflect the times, like very publicly. And I've been very admire the fact that you're so public about, your social justice work, and the fact that you're so like, please vote, are you registered, and here's how to be a poll worker. So you talk about like how, because believe it or not, it is still relatively rare that artists do, for fear of being liked or not liked, like the fact that you stand up so much, it does mean something. What made you decide to do something?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could do more often, but I think I try. For me, it's important that I'm not like putting on a persona. And so like if I'm doing work, like whatever I put out there, I need to be doing work behind the scenes in my own life. And that was really important this summer, during this ongoing Black Lives Matter movement, which must be ongoing. But even like with the election day workers, like I'm not someone who like picks up information well. Like I need to study stuff. I need to like take notes. I need to like force myself to read, to feel like I actually have any knowledge to speak on anything. So for the poll workers, it was like something I wanted to like put out there for a while. But yeah, I think I'm just worried. I'm really worried. And I feel, not that I have like a huge influence, but I have hope that if we all kind of do our part and put out our work, then that can change things on a micro level gradually, at the bare minimum. So yeah, if I want that from other people, and that's kind of my hope, where I put my hope in. I kind of have to show up to the best of my ability.
Sometimes it is just important that anybody who does admire you or look to your work just know that that's where your heart is, because I think there's a lot of apathy right now. There's a lot of like helplessness, and sometimes it does make that little difference just to see that someone that is an artist like is fully roundedly compassionate. And I think it's great that you're doing that. And
Thank
it
you.
you we're almost in, we're like, it's starting to feel like fall on the East Coast a little.
Yeah, it's fall here.
Like last, I believe it was last winter, you came out with the Before This Christmas Ends.
Oh my God, yeah.
And that was such a beautiful, again, obviously, guys, I'm obsessed with Beccs. Like, I'm gonna put her on my show just so I can like see her.
I wish I got dressed. Showered.
It's just so lovely to see you. But like, I'm a huge fan also, and
Thank you.
we met just like another few of my guests doing odd jobs, like
Yeah.
silly things. But you did this Before Christmas Ends, and it was this wonderful, like, just perfect little true love but inclusionary Christmas love tale. And I don't know, I just want to throw it to you, like, how's that baby, and like, how does it feel reverberating almost a year later? And
Yeah. I mean, I'm like beaming just thinking of it, actually. I'm so happy you bring it up. Yeah, I love, it was so fun. It also showed like a very different side of Becks, I think, because it was a very, yeah, it was like a happy, like my version of romantic, and just like holiday spirit. And it's funny because I'm like a pretty, I don't know, it's a side of me that I don't really show a lot, but I love that story. I love that video. My like one of my best friends from college directed it, and it was really last minute because I wrote the song in October, and I'm like, hi, do you want to finish this song with me? Hi, do you want to make this music video? Okay, cool. We have to shoot it in 2 weeks. And so that was pretty wild, but I just like knew in my gut I needed to make this, and I was like gonna find a way. But I love it because there's a part of me that like really enjoys the holiday season. I'm Jewish, but and but it's really also cringing, just like how heteronormative it is, and just yeah. And so I really wanted. I finished this song because I saw the visual of me and like a good friend of mine, just feeling that kind of love for each other that I think is so common, but it's so unspoken. And I like have been single for a good part of my adult-ish life, and I have derived love and meaning from my friendships, and that's where I like learned the kind of love that I want to have in my partnerships. And I think I just like got kind of like sad and fed up that like that people didn't look for love in those places. And I was like, why don't we? Like, why are you lamenting about this guy to me when like I think you're awesome? So there was like some of that, and the video is just like, oh my God, it still makes me teary.
so cute, and I just love seeing how like it kept, getting featured in different articles and like being like really seen, and I mean it to me, like, I feel for you with the holiday season thing. Like, I really want it to be less of that commercial thing, less of that, like, you know, exclusionary, like whether it be on a religious basis or on a certain group or a certain sexuality. And so it was very nice to see that like version of the holiday spirit that I always thought was there. Like, it's like
Yeah.
maybe this, like that, those the good moments of love actually, like maybe this moment, like
Yeah.
hear how I really feel. And that's like, so I'll make sure to put like the links to all of your my YouTube description link. But it's such a great one, and especially a year later, we're in a very different world, and who knows what that'll be post-election, like a year later. But you really like showed a different side of yourself in that, and it was a very delightful thing to share.
Thank you. I hope people watch it. It makes me happy.
Without qualifying it, and I think that's the best way to share these kinds of things. Like, not be like, oh, this is my friend's like LGBTQ friendly Christmas video. I was just, here's a great Christmas song, and then they watch it and like they're like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I had like family members that watched it, and a lot of people, even like people who don't identify as queer, they were like, I felt that, like, this totally makes sense to me. And I think there is something so universal about it. Like, I saw my dad crying when we watched it, and he's like, this is just pure love. This is just about love. And I think I really, yeah, I wanted the heart of it to come through. Yeah.
He does. So one of the questions I ask all my guests is,
yeah,
what is, based on everything we've talked about, everything you've been feeling this week, what is your message to the universe right now? Like, what would you want to say and send out there, whatever that means to you?
Whew. I think personally for me, okay, well, I'll say it as, it might be me projecting, but I think these are pretty critical times, and I think we should be pretty vigilant with how we're treating ourselves and where we're putting what we're doing with our time, because there's a lot of like unhealthy ways to either worry about the world or avoid the world. And I think if we can just keep taking care of ourselves and show up for what is happening around us as much as we can, in a sustainable way, I think it's going to be a long run. And it's just like kind of like social crisis after social crisis, and they're just piggybacking on each other. And my hope is that we can all wisely and constructively withstand it and strategize and be a little, work outside the self a little for each other.
Definitely. Working on yourself in order to leave yourself. It's like the other day I went to the dentist because I've been stress grinding my teeth. That actually cracked one of my teeth.
Oh, I wear my night guard all the time. Ouch.
During the day. And like, so I have my night guard, so I'm like fine with that. And it was the wildest thing because I was like, okay, wow, that's unclench my jaw, massage it, and like notice where I'm holding my tension. You just, it's a marathon, not a race. And if we don't learn how to take care of ourselves, then those things become part of the bigger problem.
Totally. Yeah. And we kind of like harden and calcify. And if we do that, if we each do that individually, collectively, we're all going to pay the price.
Yeah.
Not to be morbid.
Well,
yeah.
In the show this week is so
Asta, you're awesome. Thank you for having me and for being such an amazing, thorough, loving fan and friend. It's so awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Chatting with Asta, and thanks so much to my guest Beccs for this week. It was so lovely chatting and talking with you. Everyone, I highly suggest you listen to her music, especially Such a Love, which was just released and created under quarantine. And yeah, her message this week is a poignant one. You know, we need to really search for sustainable ways to treat ourselves, take care of ourselves, so that we can show up for others, because there's a lot being thrown at us right now. And on that note, see you next week.